That's when you know you're with a true friend, is that you can say the dumbest shit that comes into your mind to that person, and they're like, I got you, man. I'm with you. Like, my brain works that way, too.
But that's what must be fun about having a show with your friends that you are writing, is that you can basically weave all those in and make your private jokes like public jokes.
Well, I mean, that's the chemistry, right? Because it's funny with these guys, because the three of us are actually so different. But I'm very different from Rob and very different from Charlie. We're all so different from each other. And there's this place where our senses of humor meet, which is really nice. But at the same time, we all weirdly come at humor from a different place. So I find both of those guys so funny. And it causes me to strive to be funnier and try to be smarter, because I'm trying to reach the level that I perceive them to be at. So I like to think that in a way we sort of elevate each other in that way and fill in each other's, there's things that those guys are just better at than I am. And then I like to think maybe there are things that I'm better at than they are. But it's nice when you find those people where, they enjoy your sense of humor and make it better, elevate it.
And then you are also, that you essentially are all elevating each other, because you complement in the right. There's something about a specific type of person and your personality that activates the right joke centers in your brain, and you all together make a thing. Yeah,
it's like, anytime you have, I mean, I liken it to having, being in a relationship or having a dance partner, which I'm not a dancer, but I like to think you work with somebody who you feel like brings out the best in you. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly how I feel about these guys. I feel like they bring out the best in me. I know that's the case. Not to get all mushy.
Well, what's also strange is that we're not aesthetically compatible in a lot of ways either. We'll go and see the same movie the night before and be like, hey, did you see that movie? I loved it. And like Glenn will hate it. And I knew he hated it because I liked it. Like, we have very different opinions about so many different things. And yet for whatever reason, then somebody will pitch something in the room and Glenn and I will laugh at the same time. So we have like similar senses of humor, but at the same time we have completely different ways of looking at it. I don't know why.
Well, I think that's why you can continue to. There's a difference between Sunny and then like a classic sitcom, not in just the way the show's presented, but in the way that, sitcoms essentially are written funny, and then they just sort of plug people in. And then hopefully over time, it's like, they find this balance between they understand who the characters are. But when you guys all know each other and the comedy is based off your actual relationships and your personal experiences, it's not like you're going to run out of personal experiences. It's like, Louis could make Louis forever if he wanted to, because all he has to do is just experience things and then express them. Mm-hmm. And that's such a more interesting approach to comedy than,
Yeah, it's much more organic. It would be like the equivalent of writing a stand-up act and having someone else perform it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just, when you're writing your own material, writing to your own strengths, writing to the strengths of the people around you, it's a much more organic thing, because we were also friends and we'd worked together on different versions of the show and other things together prior to Sunny. So there's that chemistry that's built in, as opposed to writing something and then casting actors. It's like, it's even more difficult for the stars to align to where it works in a way that is really, really special and unique. When you're that extra step removed, the actors are that extra step removed from the material. So they're trying to portray something. But it's different.
And it's like every time they've tried to do like an American version of the show Peep Show. It's like, like Mitchell and Webb, like they worked together for years, and that's what made the original British Peep Show work. And then they tried to do an American version where they just cast two different actors to be good buddies, and like it hasn't worked.
I mean, like if they try to recast Laurie and Fry and Laurie, can't. It's because Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie work well together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we get because we produce shows now too. We get a lot of foreign formats, right? And so we'll watch a DVD of a show in England that does really well, and this just happened recently where all three of us agreed that we really liked it, which is so rare. So we're like, great, let's see if we can adapt that for American television. And they're like, okay, great. And we're like, okay, let's meet with the actors. No, it won't be the actors. Okay, will it be like the writers? Well, not really. It's like an executive producer. So what are we buying? Just the idea for the show. And we're like, well, the idea for the show is fine, but that's not what makes a great show. I mean, the idea for our show is 5 people who own a bar in Philadelphia.
It's not a great idea.
There's not a great idea. I mean, Seinfeld was a show about nothing. The Simpsons is a family in Springfield. You know, it's about who's going to execute that particular vision. So we run into that all the time. Especially in television, you're not buying the idea or the premise. You're hopefully buying the people that create it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's another thing too. Is I'll get sent a script from somebody like, "Hey, I wrote a pilot. It's great." And you read it, you're like, yeah, it's pretty good. Check out the premise. And the premise is really, really interesting. And then you talk to them, he's like, well, do you want to run this show? Well, I don't really know how to run a show. And it's like, but that's really what you're buying, especially with a show, because a show is going to go on for years. You got to write so many episodes of that thing. The most important element of it is the people behind it, the brains, the point of view behind it. Because a premise is just like, yeah, anybody can think of like, hey, a plane lands on an island and then you're stuck there.
And then you run out of it after half an episode.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of the more successful shows, really, the premise is kind of extremely simple. I mean, think about Cheers.
Certainly for comedies. Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly for comedies. Yeah. It's slightly different. But even when you think about some of the most successful dramas, that's the case. Law and Order. Like, what's that about? Like, that's not really a premise.
Well, you see, the criminal justice system is divided into two distinct parts.
Oh, boy.
Police that investigate the crimes.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
Prosecute the...
That's about as high concept as it gets.
You think?
Law and Order?
It's a show about cops and lawyers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but the first half of the show is about the crime and then how they solve the crime.
I don't know. I think CSI Miami's pretty intense.
You think that's a format,
not a premise?
You think that's a character-driven...
No, I think it's a format and not a premise.
I think so.
You know what I'm saying? Like the procedural thing is it's almost more of a format than a premise. You know, each week we're investigating a new crime as opposed to, something that's much more serialized. Like I don't watch Sleepy Hollow, but when I first saw the trailers for that, I was like, a show about a headless horseman? How many episodes are you going to be able to do about that? Like, what's you know what I mean? And again, I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to that. But
you did.
No, I don't know.
I know. The point is, it turns you off as a viewer automatically because you don't want to necessarily.
Yeah, of course, that's just me because I know too much. But like to the average person, they might go, "Oh, cool, awesome!" Like they'd have the opposite reaction. They'd be like, "How are you going to do a show about that? Let me watch and see." As opposed to me, I'm like, "They're not going to be able to pull that off," so I don't even give it a shot.